Thank you. I don't have any amendments to this because I'm opposed to it. And I need to speak to this because I've never gotten the opportunity to speak to it. I've tried, but it's not agendized properly. I wanted to write something, but I don't think you're going to pay that much attention. I don't mean in disrespect to you, but there are things that are factual that people ignore. I watched it on television with regard to the impeachment process. Factual things, pictures of it, and people said, I don't even pay attention to that. Well, let me try to help you. First of all, I speak from experience, and I'm the only one on here that's been a principal of a high school for multiple years. I know Scott has been in a middle school, and I've been in multiple middle schools. I've only been in secondary schools. School police were created to protect the campus against the outside influences that were rampant back in the days when we really needed them. And then we put them in uniforms. Um, the notion that school police are the same as municipal police is inherent in some of the activists that say school police inherently, even some of the board members, they shouldn't even be there. They shouldn't be there. And they shouldn't opt to even have them on campus. You will notice that no principal of a public school has come down here, or a high school or middle school, and said, I can do without school police. Not one. Allah has said, don't do this. You haven't heard that. You've heard it, but you're not listening. Um, if in fact school police are unnecessary, who are you going to call when the stuff hits the fan? And how do you know how you measure that which has been prevented and never occurred because the presence of a police officer was a prevention? And people say the presence of the police car in front of the school criminalizes the school. In the day, we said, don't put fences in front of the school. That criminalizes and makes it look like a prison. But it's a protection. And if we see school police as predators and villains, then we can make a lot of speeches about that instead of protectors and preventers. But if you choose not to see them that way, then you can justify that they don't belong here at all. And when did you get that idea? Don't have to answer it. Did you get it after George Floyd was killed? Or did you have that feeling before? You didn't bring it up 5 years ago. And it's been here for 4 decades. They've been here. And they are our police. They're our employees. And yet we've had these political ideas that one union can attack another union. And some of us say, yeah, we'll do that. I think that change is important, but all change is not improvement. The benefit of police on campus, the only reason, one of the primary reasons they should be on campus, they can build trust and relationships. You cannot assist students if they don't know you and don't trust you. Can you imagine that something breaks out on a campus and you have to call 911? Who do you think is going to show up? A group of strangers with their training in hand. I'm not disparaging them, but they will not be as gentle or as concerned about the school police who would know the students that are there anyway. And if the school police calls for backup, he's calling for backup from other school police, not from municipal police. It's a very difficult thing to police children when there's activity on campus that requires some calming or some intervention or even some physicality to calm the unrest. If you've never been in it, then you don't know what it's about. You might see it from a distance. You might say, well, did it once or twice. I've been in it more than all of you combined. That doesn't make me better. It just makes me experienced. I'm opposed to the opt-in, opt-out process for totally different reason. I don't think a principal should be in the position of having to opt in when it is clear that the board says, because of the other activists that have come to us and said, police are dangerous to begin with. What principal is going to raise his or her hand and say, send me an officer? If you can't, as board members, have a different decision, oppose and resist the enthusiasm of the activists who don't supervise the schools, how can a principal do that? Can you imagine that the school will be the target of that that unrest on the part of the people who say you don't have any police are illegal here? Why did you ask for a police officer, Mr. or Miss Principal? How could they do that? If you can't say no, how can they say no? So I'm opposed to it too. Don't that shouldn't be a choice. If we can't unify it across the district like we did with Wandy, and you said no, and it was universal because otherwise it would be discriminatory. I know that there are some communities that are more active than others with regard to intrusions and possibilities. There is trafficking, human trafficking in some school areas, sometimes on the campus. We don't know that yet because you don't have the data on it. The LA Times has talked about it. They've talked about crime has increased in the community. Gang violence has not gone away. Some neighborhoods don't even know what gang violence is. They read about it, they're stimulated by television, but they don't see it. They don't even know there's a gangbanger on campus because they don't have any in some neighborhoods. Are you saying, well, exempt them because those are different people? And that makes us different people too in my neighborhood. Sure, we have needs. If you make it universal, then it's not discriminatory and it's not selective. But that seems to be too hard to do. So we'd rather take the low-hanging fruit and say, get rid of school police. They are not municipal police. In the focus group, and I talked to the people about what the focus groups were. The African-American community, and the survey takers told me this, the African-American community, and most of the parents, the women, mothers, who said they thought that school police was connected to LAPD. And yet we still have more people that said the school police ought to remain. So the survey is not going to be persuasive with you because it was just some numbers. There's no analysis of that. And they were confused. But they had already voted on, they still want to keep the school police, but they still thought that there was some of a threat because they don't trust municipal police. I do understand that. I have personally been victimized by municipal police before I came to California and since I've been in California. That's not for me to expose all of my transgressions and all of the things that happened to me, which were not transgressions by police. But I relied heavily on some municipal police. When I was at one of my schools had the sheriff, and they helped a great deal. And we had school police as well, which saved me, saved students, saved a lot of things, and were visible at ball games, at dances, at night, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I didn't need municipal police for that. So I am saying that I will not be supporting this, and I'm putting it on the record. I'm speaking to it. I know I'll get criticized for it, but that doesn't stop me from telling the facts, because I know the difference between truth and facts. Truth is what you believe. If you believe it, it becomes your truth. It might not be a fact at all. We've had no incidents reported to us of school police breaking rules, hurting children, being disciplined because of their interaction with children. We had none of that. None of that. And when we have the data, which is not research, the data that talks from UCLA, 8% Black population, 24% interaction with police. It doesn't talk about what those interactions were. It didn't talk about what the student did to get the police there. The police are not looking for anything on the campus. They're trying to be there in case, in the event of. And when school police respond, the word respond means they've been called by somebody. They have not been called by the children. They have not been called by the parents. They've been called by staff. Could have been custodians, could have been cafeteria workers. Most of the time it's by teachers. They call police. So the interaction is now between the police and whoever most of the time it's a student that they need help with.
Dr. McKenna, I don't mean to interrupt. If you could wrap up, we'll come back to you, but I want to make sure we get.
I'm going to wrap up now. But I know others have a say, but I don't get a chance every now and then. When I do talk, I have to try to put it all. But I can see everybody glazing over already. And I'm not trying to insult you. I'm simply saying I know where I am, but I think I owe it to the record to at least speak on it. And I think that we're doing an injustice to our employees, an injustice to our children, an injustice to our teachers when we leave them unprotected. And the parents expect us to have safe schools. And if you think the police are the problem, I think you got a problem yourself. I would too, because these are police that we train. These are police that we supervise. These are police that we can that we evaluate and can hire and fire without going to court. We have the right to do that. Yet we abrogate that right to say they don't need to be there at all. We don't want them to have any choice at all. Administrators, people we're supposed to trust as principals. Do they or do they not prefer school police? You take it away from them, say, you know, you can't make a choice now. But if you choose to, raise your hand. They're going to do that. That's unfair to them. So I'll leave it alone. I'll yield my time. I'm not going to try to come back. I've said what I think is sufficient. It's all I think you can take right now. It's not all I can give, but I'll just give it up right now. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. And I think, Dr. McKenna, you're right. You're right